Well, welcome to another Reflections and Confessions of the $50 Billion Man. Sally and I just flew in from Athens, Greece. Well, Sally and I just flew in from Athens, Greece, and we just landed in Edinburgh by way of London Heathrow. It was a long day. Some of the things, reflections I'm going to have are going to be based on what I saw in the airport, which I don't normally pay that much attention to the people in the airport, and what I read in the various newspapers, because we spent several hours in the airport, delayed flights, etc., and some of the commentary from the English newspapers, but we're coming home. We're early because there were some things that I needed to get done that I couldn't get done via Skype or the internet. So we cut our holiday short, which is very un-British. Although we're going to resume our trip in a little less than a week's time, when we get the stuff done that we have to get done at the castle. By the time this airs, this will be old news, but unfortunately there were some real tragedies over the last 36 hours. Terrorist attacks allegedly by ISIS in Tunisia, Kuwait, and France, and those are tragedies. There's nothing I can do to explain them. They're obviously not justified, but anyway, we feel for the families of those that were killed and wounded, etc. While a number of comments from you guys have been, why don't I talk more about the Great Western days and what I used to do, and more or less when I was infamous. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't talk so much about it because it was a long time ago, number one, and even though that history follows me, it has followed me for many years now, actually decades, it's not germane. At least I don't think it's germane. What's germane is the methodology that I used to achieve those goals, and the methodology that has been used the last 22 plus years since I've been coaching by you guys in the QLA seminars. But when I was walking through the airport, or sitting actually waiting for our delayed flights, I noticed several things. Number one, about every fifth or sixth elderly man or woman drags their leg. And having had my hip replaced, my right hip replaced several years ago, I know what that looks like. That looks like. And some of them really drag their leg, and some of them only have a little hitch. And it's quite funny to me. It's not funny because I know it's painful. It hurts like hell, because it hurt me until I got it operated on. But once you have that surgery, it's like a miracle. It's within hours you don't feel the pain, and you ask yourself, why in the fuck didn't I do this years before? But I want to stop every one of these old geezers that walks by and say, get that fucking hip fixed, you old git. But I just watch and I poke Sally and I say, hey, listen, look at that, look at another one. Another thing that I noticed in the airport today is about every fifth or sixth man has a tattoo on his forearms or in his arms, whatever. And these are old guys. These aren't young guys. And I would imagine that they got those tattoos when they were young. They were in the military, the Navy, whatever, Merchant Marines. And, I want to stop and ask them, okay, you old fart, are you happy you got that fucking tattoo now that you're 60 years old and you look like a fucking creep? But, we do strange things when we're young. I miss that. So when I was sitting there watching the people stagger by, speaking of staggering, and this is an awful thing to say because I'm going to get old someday, but at least 10% of the people that are traveling on the world today in airports shouldn't be traveling by themselves. They stagger around like, gee, where are we? They can't read the signs. I mean, it's an awful thing to say. But just when I was just picked up here at Edinburgh, there was an elderly couple. I'd say, actually not that many years older than myself. He's in a wheelchair, and she is, pushing him, and she had loaded the bags up on one of the trolleys, and they're waiting for I don't know who. And a number of people, not myself, went up and asked them, "Is there anything we can do to help you?" And a couple of people that actually worked in the airport. And then I got close enough to listen, and I tried to contact my granddaughter. My daughter was supposed to be here, I thought, but I can't get through to my daughter. So then I called my granddaughter, and my granddaughter's not picking up. And they went on and on and on and on. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be at the airport, but you would think that an elderly couple, one of which is in a wheelchair, that somebody should have been there to pick them up. But and normally I wouldn't have noticed this. And now that old geezer in the wheelchair didn't have tattoos, and the old lady that was pushing him didn't have dragging her hip. So, but they certainly stood out, and the people were crowded around when the baggage first came off, and then they were still there waiting. Of course, we were waiting for our baggage too. A couple things. I was going to wait till next year. As you know, I'm going to have this Christmas seminar that's going to go from the 24th of December through the 3rd of January, which has been coined or called QLA Hardcore. And to get into the QLA Hardcore, you have to be an alumni of the Castle Seminar. But I was going to wait till after that to introduce a new concept into the 8-day or week-long seminar. And it's and we're still fine-tuning the title, but it'll be something to the effect of the psychology of the high-performance person, or the psychology of the high performer. Now, Dennis Waitley, famously, about 35 or 40 years ago, coined a seminar called The Psychology of Winning. In fact, it's the first seminar I ever went to when I was looking for some inspiration back in 1974, and I discovered that he had been mentored by Jim Newman, and then I went and found Jim Newman, and the rest is more or less history. Jim mentored me for 25 years until his death. But in the last seminar, in the private time, for the 20 plus kids that came to the seminar, one of the kids, an Irish kid who lived in the Isle of Man, and I would suggest that you look at their testimonials. They're a couple minutes long, and but they're really good testimonials. But he commented to me in the private time that he better appreciated, he better understood why we spend 2/3 of the seminar on the psychology of being a high performance person. So a bell went off in my head, and just as when I got interviewed by Grant Cardone in the front of his roles, I came up with the idea of Reflections and Confessions of the $50 Billion Man. I had been working on this the last several months, and was going to introduce it in my first seminar, whenever that would be, in 2016. But I decided to introduce it in this year, and so I'm working hard to get it in for the into July, beginning of August seminar, which is only about a month off now, because it's really important. How important it is, you have no idea. But the thing that differentiates and not a lot of you like Donald Trump. Some of you, a lot more of you, like Richard Branson than Donald Trump. But those high performance guys, and a lot of guys didn't like the way Steve Jobs treated people, and more of you like the way Bill Gates treats people now, not as he used to. But they think differently. Their psychology, their mindset is much different. I read an article in the British Air magazine about Arnold Schwarzenegger, and how and he didn't call it the psychology of being a high performance person, but it certainly he listed several points that were important to him in his bodybuilding days, and when he decided he wanted to be a movie star, when he ran and won for governor, how he married into one of the dynasty families, the Kennedy families, by marrying Maria Shriver. And he had all this set out since he was, 18, 20 years old. And it's a different mindset. It's a different way of thinking. And, of course, I follow that prescription, if you will, and have since I got out of OCS some 40-plus years ago, and was deemed an officer and a gentleman by the Act of Congress. Now, the stress, if you will, that people feel during the seminar is based on them being pulled so far out of their comfort zone to think like a high-performance person and to act like a high-performance person. And I make the analogy, Andy Murray, who won Wimbledon 2013, he's the British #1 tennis player. If you were in the tennis court against, on the other side of the net, from Murray, even if you were a great tennis player, you're going to feel out of sorts. You're going to feel out of your comfort zone. Because, he is, won Grand Slams, or at least one Grand Slam that I know of. And the same feeling that you feel when you get out of your comfort zone vis-a-vis trying to find a chairman for your QLA dream team, etc. It's the same feeling. And but you can condition yourself. And we spent a great deal of time during the seminar, first 3 or 4 days, teaching you how to condition yourself vis-a-vis your affirmations and your goals, etc. So we're going to institute or initiate that new section of the seminar, the psychology of the high performer, psychology of the high performance individual, in the next seminar, which will be in about a month's time. It'll probably be about the time this thing runs, but it'll be for the what we call the August seminar, which will be just before my birthday. And we had people in June, excuse me, that signed up for the June seminar, and before they even signed up, or they attended the June seminar, they had already signed up for the Christmas hardcore QLA seminar, because you can't go to the hardcore, the QLA, without being a QLA week-long alumni. Now they've been to the June seminar, so I fully would expect that maybe some of them would decide, no, this is too hardcore for me. I'm not going to go to the Christmas seminar. But they have. In fact, they paid the down payments to go to the Christmas hardcore. Again, the Christmas hardcore will not have, of the 1,700 slides that we normally have in a seminar, which I go through about 1,300 or 1,400, depending on the group, we're probably only going to have 50, 60, 70 slides of those slides, because we're going to assume that you learned the sacrifices and the pay price to action and all the things that are required to be a high-performance person. And we're going to talk about doing the deals, finding the deals, and with some case studies, not unlike some of the business schools that still use the case study method. And so we'll break up into teams, 5 or 6 teams, 4 or 5, 6 teams, 4 or 5 people per team, and you'll work through the problems, and then you'll present to the group your answers with the justifications, and then I'll critique them, and then before I critique them, we'll ask the rest of the groups to give their commentary on how they thought that the other groups did. And it should be, it will be a great learning experience. And whether we do the Christmas hardcore a second time, nobody knows. But in fact, I was reading at the airport some of the early sent weekly mentee reports that I get weekly from you guys, or from the mentees anyway. And I go down and I'm reading the challenges and problems and comments, and one of the guys who happened to be a German Russian, okay, and He lives in Berlin, and he made the comment that his wife had made the comment, God forbid Dan should die during this year-long mentor program, because her husband, would be at my gravesite, the last to leave. Like, when a dog, when the master dies, the dog sits there and cries for him. Well, I don't plan on leaving the earth anytime soon. But it was an interesting perspective that his wife had about, because he does his very best to follow the precepts religiously, and he'll be successful. And as I've mentioned many times, some people come out of the chutes like jackrabbits. Some people come out of the chutes like tortoises. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that they're all making progress. They're all making progress. One of the things that was very well received in the last seminar is we had 2 Skype calls with 2 of my mentees that had just completed their first board meetings, and the board meetings went well, and now they're in the hunt for acquisition candidates. But we will have some more of that. I'm not so sure. It depends on if we have any board meetings that just transpired in a week or 2 or 3 weeks before seminar, because we want it to be, the information to be timely. We want it to be germane. We don't want to just pick somebody out of the hat to give information. We'll also looking at having at least 1 or 2 of the guys that are deeply engrossed in the acquisition hunt, where they've already found the acquisitions. They're ascertaining, what benchmarks to use, how they're utilizing their dream team, their industry experts, their accounting expert, their financial expert, their legal expert, and how they utilize their knowledge in the hunt for acquisitions. And and if we have somebody that has just recently closed the deal, in fact, we have a guy that just closed the deal about 10 days ago, and if I think that that's soon enough, for a month from now, we'll have him explain the trials and tribulations of getting the deal closed. Because in this particular case, I even announced that the deal was closed a few months ago based on the information that I was given. And that isn't what happened. The deal wasn't closed because the bank, as they can, in the process of transferring funds, clearing funds, etc., decided that they needed one more bit of information. And that one more bit of information turned into being they wanted more collateral. And that collateral he didn't have. So he had to go scurry around to find it. So a deal that was supposed to close like in February-ish really didn't close till the end of May. Even though I thought it had closed myself, until the bank had reared their ugly face into the deal and decided that they needed some more information, which can happen. And as the people that have done deals will understand, unless it's cleared funds, and unless the money is in your bank account and it's been transferred to all the different places that it's supposed to transfer, the deal's not done. And then and only then does title change, etc., and you've got to complete the transaction. And then you're off to the races, as they say. And the whole prospect, or the whole idea of QLA is not one deal, because material wealth is not built upon one transaction. It's built upon a series of transactions. And so you want to do one after another after another. And even though people still talk about the deals that I did many years ago, and the most infamous is taking $820 and turning it into $450 million in 8 years in a collapsing market. That was one deal, but it took 15, 20 deals to make that one deal. So at the end of the day, that's what the market cap was after I made 20 or 22 different transactions. So it was a series of transactions. one other thing that's come up actually since I left for my last reflections and confessions of the $50 billion man is that the guys and the gals, and there's very few gals, but I mean, we get maybe one gal per seminar. In fact, I believe in the August seminar, the July-August seminar that's coming up in a month, I think we have 2 gals. Backing up a second, the thing that came up since my last deal was that we are having people that are coming to the seminar, as I mentioned in the June seminar, that have actually used QLA successfully, but for whatever reason think that they need, or know that they need more reinforcement, they need more for themselves to get to the next level. And we're getting more and more of that, which is fine. But remember, 99.9% of all the people that have used QLA successfully have never met me, Skyped me, linked me, Facebooked me, none of those things. And they've utilized it from the free material on my website, and which is very well orchestrated now, thanks to Dan Loke, that he took the time to put all the product together, and I thank him for that. I still remember him coming about 11, 12 years ago down from Vancouver to buy me breakfast in Los Angeles. And he brought me a little gift. It's a frog. It's made out of brass, I think. It's on top of some sort of rare rock. I don't know what kind of rock it is, which I still have. I have it on my desk. I see it every day that I'm in my office. And but he's put that together. And in fact, he will be putting together a new series, which I believe I'm going to be his first person to be interviewed. I think it's called On the Shoulder of Titans. And I look forward to that interview, which is coming up here in the next few weeks. And I'm sure he'll be publishing it on social media in the weeks to come. The Ask the $50 Billion Man question podcast is still going forward. I think we've done 12 episodes, and we've got 3 or 4 more episodes in the can, and we have plenty of questions to last us through the year. We've also had 3 or 4 special episodes. And one of the things that I mentioned at the seminar, and it always befuddles me, is that the things that are the information that's readily available to you guys, but not used as much as I would hope, are, how do you create deal flow? That's on the front page of my website. That means, how do I get deals to do? Another bit of information on my website is QLA for me, and because it isn't for everybody. And one of the other questions that I ask and I answer, do you have to be an alpha male to be a QLA devotee? And the answer is no, you don't have to be an alpha male. Remember, there's 2 ends of the leadership continuum. There's the Henry Kissinger end, or the political end, or the Klaus Kleinfeld end, and then there's the General Patton, Dan Pena end. And 95 or more % of all the high-performance people, the leaders of the big corporations in the world, are at the other end of the continuum, away from me, not at my end of the continuum. Which, most of you that are watching this will fall into that end of the continuum, and you don't have to be alpha male. Now, interestingly enough, I mentioned this, I believe, in my last reflections. We had 2 cage fighters attend the seminar in June. 2 guys. And neither one of them put in their paperwork, their resume, their CV that they were cage fighters. Which, I could have a field day with that if I was Sigmund Freud. But it was interesting that we had 2. Of course, we had 2 dentists as well. So I'm not relating being a dentist doctor of dentistry or cage fighting, but I thought it was unusual that we've had dentists before, we've had doctors before, of course, but we had two dentists, one from the United States and one from Germany, and the cage fighters were both from the United States. Excuse me, I stand corrected. One was from the United Kingdom and one was from the United States. And so their perception of QLA, the cage fighter guys, was significantly different than the perception of the two dentists. We had one of the dentists was a female, and one of the dentists was a male. Now, I don't know what that means, and I'm certainly not going to try to do a psychoanalysis of it here on this podcast, but on the surface, it seemed, you would think that the cage fighting guys would relate more to the QLA, because the perception is, wrongfully, that you need to be an alpha male to be a QLA guy or gal, but you don't. But neither one of the cage fighting guys related to it any different, really, than the two dentists. For sure, the one male dentist, who was also a martial arts guy. A lot of the people that come to QLA now are martial arts trained. I think that's a reflection of people take up martial arts and cage fighting, for that matter, to build their self-confidence. And and as I've mentioned and beat my chest till I'm blue in the face, self-esteem is at the core of excellence, being a high-performance person. And a lot of people have been taught, or they read, or they think that being a martial arts trained or a physical fitness guy or gal will help them with their self-confidence, and then that self-confidence will translate into a higher self-esteem. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I can't give you a percentage of how many times it does or how many times it doesn't, but I can tell you, and these are old numbers now, but 15 or plus years ago, approximately 2/3 of all the Fortune 500 CEOs had a couple things in common. One of which was that they were martial arts trained, and about 2/3 of those 2/3 had some sort of military background. They either were in the military, they went through ROTC in university, or they went to military schools growing up, as did Donald Trump. I believe he went to military school in high school before he went off to Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania. And the military background, the martial arts, etc., is all about focus, discipline, and commitment. And you certainly need those attributes to succeed with QLA. But you need those attributes to succeed with anything. I mean, focus. And again, relating back to the article I read on the plane coming here about Schwarzenegger and how at such a young and tender age, he didn't have indoor plumbing. He didn't have this. He comes from a small little place in Austria. But he had this dream, and Mikey the Pizza Boy, who will be at my 70th birthday, and this may, I don't know if this is going to air before or after my 70th birthday in August. He was writing me in the last couple of days that he thinks that the most important thing that he learned from me before he came to the Castle Seminar and at the Castle Seminar and post-Castle Seminar is yesterday's dreams are today's realities. Of course, that's one of the benchmarks, precepts of QLA and of my success. Castle was my dream, and it's reality today, and that's why it's the perfect metaphor for the Castle Seminar, because we're sitting there. We're not sitting in the castle having the seminar because we're doing it in the pavilion, but a good portion of the attendees are staying in the castle. And by the way, not everybody stays in the castle for the seminar. Some are staying in the cottages on the estate. And the rooms, just so you understand, and I've said this before, are first come, first served. In other words, those who pay first get the best rooms. Those who pay last get the lesser rooms. And that's just, like life. Money talks and bullshit walks. Just a couple of comments about my 70th birthday. My lovely wife, who is doing the final touches on the organization, on the actual birth date, the black tie event. There'll be a golf tournament. There'll be falconry. There'll be electronic skeet shooting, and of course, followed by a black tie dinner. There'll be entertainment throughout the day, both in the castle and in the pavilion. The day before the actual party, there'll be events. There'll also be a dinner, and the dress is, as they probably call it, smart casual. I call it country club casual, which means no jeans. And the day following my birthday, there'll be other activities, and depending on how many of the guys and gals actually stay for the day after. I would imagine there'll be some hangovers, as there were on my 40th and 50th birthday, which I had 20 years ago and 30 years ago. The 40th birthday was at the castle. We put up a big marquee. It was like a circus tent that was attached to the castle. And my 50th birthday was at the Glon's Castle, which is maybe 15 miles away, where Queen Mum is from, or that general area. And I don't know where I'm going to have my 75th or 80th, or if I'll have a 75th or 80th. Based on all the work that my wife's had to do for my 70th, this may be my last birthday. There may not be any more. Hopefully that's not the case. But I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of people I haven't seen in many years. And there'll be some of the people that have been instrumental in helping me with my career. Unfortunately, at least a half dozen of those people that were the most influential in helping my career are no longer with us. They've gone, they've passed on, and that's sad, but that's life. Of course, my parents have passed on a long time ago. Or I should say my mother passed on a long time ago. My dad just recently passed away. And but they were instrumental in their own ways in my success. I think that's it for today. I'm looking forward to, in the next few days, we'll be doing this again when we're going back from the castle to the airport. But anyway, God bless, peace.